Good morning. Hong Kong will be the most important financial center in the world, and it's going to serve as the banking and finance hub for the BRICS economic bloc. Companies and high net worth individuals here in mainland China are setting up offices in Hong Kong, and their deposits and investments there are capitalizing the new BRICS banking system. This was a trend that started to really take off about 10 years ago. This is a chart of international company registrations in Hong Kong. We've shared research on Hong Kong before and the way Hong Kong is both part of China, but its banking and financial system is considered offshore. That gives the Chinese government and central bankers here on the mainland a lot of flexibility. For example, they can regulate how their currency, the renminbi, trades with other global currencies while walling off mainland China's economy from inflation caused by moving US dollar renminbi lower in offshore markets, for example. And because Hong Kong is under the jurisdiction of China's central bank and government, depositors and investors in Hong Kong fall outside SWIFT regulators in the United States and Europe. For mainland Chinese companies and investors, not to mention companies from Russia or South America or Africa, that is a necessary condition for committing deposits and setting up business operations in Hong Kong. So beginning in 2016, mainland Chinese companies registering offices in Hong Kong rose sharply. There were only about 1,100 Chinese companies with offices in Hong Kong in 2016, with the US and Japan at around 1,400. By 2018, 2 years later, mainland Chinese companies outnumbered American and Japanese ones. Fast forward a bit, and in 2023, 382 international companies set up in Hong Kong under the Invest HK program. That was up 27% compared to 2022. Mainland China was a big chunk of that, with 136 companies. About a fourth of the companies are in financial services. 2024 saw an even bigger jump, with an increase of 41% over 2023. 539 mainland and overseas firms set up in Hong Kong, and more than half of those came from mainland China. And 12% of the firms setting up in Hong Kong last year are Belt and Road countries. Invest HK's focus, in fact, is emerging markets and Belt and Road countries, which use Hong Kong to develop their own markets and to access China's factory and consumer sectors. What is powering Hong Kong then is not companies from the G7 countries who are bringing capital in. It's companies from mainland China and now companies in Belt and Road countries. They perceive Hong Kong as a springboard for their expansion plans and also a safe haven for their investments away from Western regulators. It's not just mainland China companies, but also wealthy individuals here. You've heard about how wealthy Chinese want to get their money out of mainland China because they can't make money here because the interest rates are so low. Our economists like to write about Chinese capital flight. Well, there it is, right there. This bar chart that goes from nothing to vertical, that's Chinese capital flight. Wealthy Chinese are taking their money invested with Chinese banks and wealth managers in mainland China and moving it to Chinese banks and wealth managers in Hong Kong. This chart is by month, not year. March 2024 set a record, over 12 billion yuan. April almost doubled that. Hong Kong's Wealth Connect program was set up to give high net worth Chinese investors access to global markets. And as of last year, Wealth Connect was limited to residents in Guangdong province only. The program is now expanding to other provinces. There are 45 million high net worth families in China, and these firms in Hong Kong are ramping up to manage that money, which can be used again to finance global trade without putting bank deposits at risk in mainland China. Hong Kong is also serving notice that they're a jurisdiction where companies can raise capital even if they're on sanctions lists. Hong Kong was one of Asia's best performing stock markets in 2024, and there were 69 initial public offerings in Hong Kong last year, raising 88 billion Hong Kong dollars, 89% higher than 2023. and more are on the way. The biggest company to announce plans for a new capital raise is CATL, a giant Chinese battery maker. CATL filed for a new IPO in Hong Kong after its shares in mainland China rose 60% on the year. CATL wants to raise investment capital to finance factory expansion in Spain, and the company filed notice with the Shenzhen Exchange and its investors. CATL, though, was just added to the sanctions list by Washington. So consider how attractive Hong Kong is then to the CATL board. They would be out of their minds to do an IPO in New York or London or even Madrid if the proceeds could just be frozen or seized. They could raise all the capital they want in Shenzhen, where their shares trade now, but they would then need to get those funds offshore to fund their expansion plans abroad. Hong Kong checks both of those boxes. Hong Kong is open to fresh capital investment from around the world, but Hong Kong is closed to foreign bank regulators and governments. If CATL can go to Hong Kong and do a successful IPO, despite being on Western sanctions lists, that is something that every CFO everywhere is going to notice. The BRICS economic bloc of countries is motivated to do as much of their business between themselves as possible, and Hong Kong is where it's going to happen. Hong Kong's success is exclusive of how many US or UK or Japanese companies are setting up there, or how many new deposits roll in from investors in New York or London or Tokyo. That is irrelevant. Hong Kong will succeed because of companies and depositors from China, and because of companies and investors in BRICS economies. Hong Kong is open to everything, trading in any currency, even in crypto, but Hong Kong is closed to regulators and officials outside the BRICS system, and so new capital is rolling in every day. This is Harbin, Heilongjiang province. Be good.
Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Everyone who hears these words of Jesus and acts on them is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and yet the house did not fall, for it was founded on a rock. Our Father, who art in